we have the ability as individuals to bring energy to every situation we're in. And you can tell, like, you sit across the table from somebody and you can feel their energy in an instant. Nobody has to say a word, but you can feel if they're bringing good energy or not. I think we need to be very aware of the energy we're bringing into our work, our marriages, our kids, our friends. It matters. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Grit Meets Growth podcast, where we bring you inspiration and insights focused on getting uncomfortable, making things happen, and creating a magnetic life. If you enjoy the messages you're hearing here, please leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of the podcast. With that, let's get after it.
Energy all around this week. Like I came off of a week that I was just drained, right? Had so much going on in my life. Was just very taxing, very draining, and was able to finally catch up from that. And it's been nothing but energy around me for the last week and a half.
We talked about the need to recharge in the last episode and how important that is. Being around good energy is the first step to recharge. I mean, that's a huge part of it, man.
No doubt.
I want to start with a story you were just telling me, because we'll go down this path of energy and bringing good energy. You were just talking about Tom Kiefer and the Tom Kiefer and LA Guns show that you went to. Like,
so total last minute situation. Got invited to the show. Of course, I've always been a Cinderella fan. You know, I mean, we are 80s rockers, dude. I mean, that's the era we grew up in, right? So, got invited to the show. LA Guns opened for Tom Kiefer band. You know, of course, Tom Kiefer's the lead singer from Cinderella. So go to the show, and, you know, LA Guns is putting it out there and some amazing energy, and the crowd is completely into it. And Tom Kiefer comes out, and it took him a couple of songs to really get the groove going. But oh my God, the dude is 62 years old, and he put it all out there on the stage. And I think part of the reason that he was able to do that was because of the energy of the crowd. It was a give and take the entire set. And it was a little bit of a roller coaster, man, just in the way they put the set list together. But oh my God, just the energy and the power and the just the engagement of everybody in that room was outstanding. No joke, one of the best shows that I've ever been to.
You lit up when you were talking to me about it. Like, you were excited to tell me the story, and like,
I've been talking about it all week. My buddy Matt and I that went together have been talking about it all week. Like, there just was something magical, and that happens sometimes, right? It's about the right people being involved and the right energy from the stage, and that connection between those two, dude, it's magical when that happens. And I was fortunate enough, I got to see much of that same thing at Bryan Adams a few weeks ago, right? Bryan Adams was the same way. The engagement with the crowd, and the crowd the size of Excel Energy Center, like, he was engaged with every person in that crowd. And that's the same way Kiefer was the other night, like, engaged with the crowd. And when those things happen, when that energy again flows back and forth, magic happens. Those are the best shows ever.
I think it's interesting because as you were telling me that story, and you told me about Bryan Adams too, you had the same reaction. I think the interesting thing about that is those are situations where you're in a big crowd and there's energy, and the musician is bringing a massive amount of energy. We talked about Kiefer and how he prepares for the show and how his his warm up is actually longer than the show because he's trying to get his voice ready. He's bringing and investing a lot of energy into making that an awesome experience. I don't think that ends when you step off of a stage. Like, I think about the meetings I've had over the last couple of weeks, the interactions I've had with people, and I've felt a lot of those same things you're talking about in some of these meetings. And it's because people are bringing good energy to the meetings. They're showing up prepared. They're putting the time in. We have the ability as individuals to bring energy to every situation we're in. And you can tell, like, you sit across the table from somebody and you can feel their energy in an instant. Nobody has to say a word, but you can feel if they're bringing good energy or not. I think we need to be very aware of the energy we're bringing into our work, our marriages, our kids, our friends. It matters.
It does. It's all on how we start, right? We talk about foundation a lot on this podcast, right? Foundational items, right? And that all starts with how we talk to ourselves. What's that conversation that we have with ourselves about that energy, right? If we're having positive conversation with ourselves, we're going to bring positive energy to that dialogue. If we're sitting here negative self-talk all day long and I'm no good and I don't know where to start and I haven't done that and I've eaten really crappy and I haven't been to the gym in a week and on and on and on, right? I'm not going to bring any energy to that conversation. I'm going to sit there and feel sorry for myself. So it all starts with that foundation of how we talk to ourselves and that positive self-talk.
Just to chime in on that, like, I've got two friends right now that are in transition between jobs, right? And they've been through interviews and all of the things that happen as you're going through transition. And one of the conversations we've been having over and over again is making sure that that transition doesn't erode confidence. Because, I mean, you think about it, the conversations we have with people, a lot of times they start with, well, tell me about yourself. And we roll right into, my identity is where I work. So I'm going to tell you all about where I work. Now, all of a sudden I'm in transition. I don't have a place that I work. So now all of a sudden I don't have any identity, which erodes my confidence, and the self-talk starts to go. So the conversations I've had with both of these individuals are like, put some barriers around that self-talk and change the way you're talking to yourself, because that's going to impact the energy you bring to those conversations.
Yeah, it's not so it's a little different now than it was, but when I've been through job transitions in the past, right, and being on phone interviews, right, most interviews that are remote today, I'm assuming, happen through Zoom. I interview people through Zoom constantly, right? But in the past, when you didn't have that ability to feed off of, I always had a mirror on my desk when I was doing phone interviews, so that I could at least feed off of my own energy, right? If I'm not seeing that person on the other side, or on the other side of the video, and I'm just on a phone call, number one, stand up. You talk better when you stand up. And number two, give yourself something to feed that energy off of, right? You're bringing your energy, you're putting it out there. But if you can't reciprocate that back, or you're not seeing that energy coming back, it could be a challenge, and it can flatten you.
Well, how many conversations have you had with somebody where you aren't receiving the energy back? You're bringing good energy. You're like, you meet somebody for lunch or whatever it is, you're bringing good energy, you're solid, and you're not getting it back. And it has the ability, the energy that we bring to conversations with one another, either are going to elevate that conversation or they're going to tank them. Yeah. And both people have to be like bringing good energy to it. It's hard because you can try to be the one to bring all the energy to it, but if it's not reciprocated, it's tough.
Yeah. And it's that reciprocation that's the most important thing, right? It's that give and take, right? It goes back to that foundation. I have to be able to receive that energy, but I also have to be willing to give it.
What are some ways that this will be a good part of this conversation. What are some ways that we give good energy? Some things we do to bring good energy to work, home. What does that look like in practice?
The first thing is really about being present, It's about living in the moment. It's understanding what that moment is. What is the meaning of that moment? What level of energy do I need to bring to it? Right? Some moments are going to require more energy than others. Some people are going to require more energy than others. Sometimes it requires that kickstart. So I think living, first and foremost, I think it's being present and being in that moment. No matter what it is that's going on, like be present. If you're at the dinner table with your family, leave the phone in the other room and be present and have the conversation. If you're in a work meeting, be present. Do not be answering emails and responding or looking on social media. Be present in the meeting. Even if you're not the one talking, or if the information that's being delivered is not specific for you, be present. Showing up at the gym, being present in the gym, being present, mindful, right? We talk about in the gym a lot about the mind-muscle connection. If I'm not present, if I'm not there in the moment, I'm not going to get the maximum benefit out of that workout. So I think in all aspects of our life, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether it's, our own time in the gym, being present and living in the moment.
Just a layer on top of that, the number of meetings I've had where somebody will say, I'm going to put my phone away, like it's a lunch meeting. I'm going to put my phone away. I want to be respectful, but they've got their watch on. And in the middle of the meeting, they're like spending a lot of time looking at their watch. It derails. Like there's got to be a way to shut the technology off, go one-on-one. And that's not to say that something important couldn't come up. Like maybe your kid calls and there's something that needs to get taken care of. I get that. But there's also like the ability to actually be engaged, actually be present. It's a lost art right now. And I think in those moments, if you show up and you actively listen, you make eye contact, you ask questions, you're actively listening, which means not hearing what somebody else is saying and tripping over your own tongue because you got your like what you want to add next, which I've been guilty of many times in my life. I'll be hearing somebody talk and I'm like, oh, I have something I want to say to that. I'm teaching myself slowly to dial that back and be like, okay, dude, how about you just shut up and listen? And maybe you ask another good question, but don't worry about what you're going to say next. Just be quiet and listen.
Yeah, I think the second component putting into practice is preparation. It's being prepared. If we haven't gone through the proper preparation to understand what it is that we're walking into, right? And we're both consultants, right? We consult for a living. And that's really, as a consultant, we have to bring the energy every time. And I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, but I need to ask smart questions. And in order to ask smart questions, I need to prepare. I need to know what the subject matter that we're talking about. I need to seek to understand what the challenge, the problem, the issue is, and be able to ask good questions to seek to understand how do we solve it, right? So if I'm gathering that information, now I can start to make some recommendations on how to solve those problems. But I have to prepare in order to be that. I can't give my full energy to that conversation if I'm not prepared.
Just to add to the preparation piece, and I'm going to take it out of the office and back home for a second. And this is a story that I've had. It's like personal story. I've had to apply that to my mom, who's like now getting older. She's like 84. And I was frustrated about something she said. This is a handful of weeks ago. And part of the preparation, part of the asking good questions was approaching it with some compassion and some empathy. So it made me step back a little bit. The thing I was frustrated with her about, as part of the preparation piece and asking questions, I started to think about what does it feel like to be in her shoes? So she's 84. She lives by herself. My dad's passed away 16 years ago now. She runs the family business still. She's a freaking rock star, like tough as nails, right? And I think because she's tough as nails, I forget sometimes that there's probably moments where she's lonely. There's probably moments where she wishes like I would call more often or I would visit more often, things like that. as part of my preparation for having conversations with my mom, and it doesn't sound like you should have to prepare for a conversation with your mom, but by stepping back and having a little bit of awareness of what it probably feels like to live and be in her shoes, I was able to enter that conversation completely different, bring different energy to the conversation her and I were having. Like, I showed up different because I had spent some time thinking about what it was like to be her. We do the same thing with clients. What does it feel like to be that client? What do they want? What's having that empathy and compassion ties right back into that preparing piece.
Absolutely. So what's the third piece? Dress for success, baby. The way we dress and the way we feel has a major impact. I had some business meetings this week with some high-level folks in the organization that I was meeting with. And I went full on suit this week, man. I know it's hot. I know it's hot weather. I didn't even care because I was going in to win the deal. And in order to win the deal, I got to dress the part in my mind, right? It's because a suit in my world has always been that coat of armor, right? When you put the suit on, man, you're going to battle. Now I know you're not really going to battle, but it's a mental picture, right? And was I dressed beyond the rest of the room? Yep. But it didn't matter. The one thing that this pandemic has caused many of us to do is get lazy, myself included. There are days where I'm like, dude, I'm in the office, like I could put a polo shirt on because I'm only on video and I've got shorts on. Well, guess what? Those days, man, I don't know that I'm as engaged or as jamming on things that I should be. When I wear a sport coat or a dress shirt, or even just dress shoes with my jeans versus, sneakers, it's a game changer for me, man. It's a game changer for my attitude and the energy that I bring to the conversations. So yeah, dress for success.
I kind of chuckled when you said that, but it's real. And even just it's taking ownership over how you show up. And that includes when you bring up the pandemic. How many times did you end up on a call during the pandemic? It'd be a Zoom call because that's all we did. And the person on the other side was in like sweats. Their hair was a mess. They probably hadn't showered for a couple of days. Like, you could tell. And it wasn't even just visually you could tell, but their energy on those calls, you could tell. Like, maybe you should go take a shower. Maybe you should put on some clean clothes, take the slippers off, and maybe show up like you belong here and that you're like ready for the conversation.
So let's think about it from a concert perspective, right? Those artists that are up on the stage, whether it's Taylor Swift, whether it's Pink, whether it's Tom Kiefer, Bryan Adams, it doesn't matter. They all dress for a persona that they're delivering on that stage. So much so, I think Taylor Swift's last concert I heard was like 19 different wardrobe changes through the course of the concert to represent that song and the energy of that song. Tom Kiefer, I've seen some videos. He wore the same outfit. Now, I don't know if it was the same exact outfit. I kind of hope not, but the same basic outfit over the course of last month. All the videos recorded over last month, he had the same basic get up on. That's the level of energy that you bring. When you feel good about the way that you're dressed, you will deliver well.
That's 100% true. That is 100% true. And it gets overlooked, I would say, quite a bit. It comes back to how you take care of yourself. If you take care of yourself, if you feel good about yourself, your confidence is high, you're going to bring good energy. But that's just, the two are tied together. That's why it matters to go to the gym. It's why it matters to eat well, take care of yourself, get some sleep. If it looks like you haven't slept in a month, you're
Right.
going to bring crappy energy.
Sleep is way important. Sleep is more important than any day in the gym. Statistics show it. It's been talked about by plenty of people. Now, that's not to say sleep your life away, but make sure that you are prioritizing sleep.
But I used to not prioritize sleep, especially when I was younger. I'm like, I can hustle and grind with the best of them. You want to go round for round, pound for pound. I will stay up later than you. I will work harder than you. I don't need sleep. I guarantee you my performance suffered because I wasn't getting rest. I guarantee you I made stupid decisions because I wasn't getting rest. And I guarantee you I worked slower because I wasn't rested. Like if there's one thing I've learned over the last even 5 years, it's the sleep bit. Because even now, if I grind a little more and a little harder than normal and I'm not getting the rest or the sleep isn't good, I can feel it. And I'm more aware of it now than I probably used to be. So I think that's a big piece of it. And I think one of the other things, if we're going to talk about positive energy and how you bring positive energy, being generous brings positive energy.
For sure.
When you're generous with your time, your resources, whatever it is, you feel it. And the people that you're generous to and around feel it. So picking up that generous spirit and figuring out what you have to give, where you can give it, how you can share with the world, and approaching situations with that as kind of your go-to is a big piece of this.
Yeah, dude, it's really about finding where that mutual energy can be shared, right? We talked about that on the stage, right? Without the crowd giving energy to the performers on the stage, it doesn't have the same appeal. It's no different in our day-to-day lives. Be around those people that have a mutual respect for the energy, that are giving and taking it the same way that you are. When there's that give and take in that relationship, it's unstoppable. But if you've got somebody in that group that is constantly sucking the energy out of you and out of others, we've all been there, dude. It's not a lot of fun. You might think it's fun at the time, but when you really sit back and reflect upon it, you're like, that was no bueno. It didn't give, right? Those situations don't give you the same feelings walking away from. And it leaves you questioning and wondering, right? Why? It's pretty simple. I've seen it, I've experienced it. It's, either I'm a suck on their energy and not giving it back, or they're a suck on my energy and not giving it back. So the only two, right? Those are the only two things that happen. And we just need to be cognizant of that. Like where are we giving energy to?
You ever been in
where are we, and on the other side of that, where are we taking energy from?
You ever been in a comedy club where the comedian is either not funny, which happens, or the audience sucks, and that give and take doesn't happen? There's like the best comedy sets happen when the comedian is funny and pushes a lot of energy out to the audience, and the audience responds. And that ping pong back and forth creates experiences that are amazing. When that doesn't happen, you walk out of a comedy set and you're like, I will never get that time back. That hour, complete waste. I'm never getting it back. Why was I here? And that's it. It's a rock show. It's a comedy set. It's the conversation you have at work. It's the interaction you have at home. Like the give and take, the back and forth is important. You can't always control how the other person is going to respond, what they're going to bring, but you can control what you bring.
So let's recap those 3 primary tenets of how we operationalize this energy?
You got to be present. Like, that's your first responsibility. When it comes to bringing good energy wherever you're going to go, you got to be present. Start with that. Be present. Put the phone away. Put the distractions away. Start by being present. Be checked in. Be an active listener. Like, ask good questions and then shut up. I mean, I think that's huge to bringing good energy. Good energy is not me throwing up all over you. It's me listening sometimes. Good energy is the compassion part, the empathy part, showing up prepared. Do the prep work. And most of all, part of the prep work, take a shower. Get dressed up. Like, act like you belong there, not only like in spirit, but like show up like you belong there. Do that. Like, those are some of the highlights for me of this conversation. Some of the things that stick out.
A lot of folks are working remotely, right? Seriously, the best thing that you can do when working remotely is get up, get showered, get dressed like you're going to the office. Go into your home office, get on your Zoom calls, whatever you have to do, but dress for that success, right? I can't stress that enough. It's one of the most important components. I come to the Grit Meets Growth episode recording, and I wear my Grit Meets Growth shirt, right? With no excuses on the back. Because that's the attitude that I'm coming to this conversation with. If I'm going to a business meeting, that's super important. I'm putting a suit on, right? So I just say that because it is that important. It is important in how we show up. It determines and dictates that energy. And that's both from a physical and from a mental perspective, right? So go out there, give and take some energy, and have some fun this week, and look for those opportunities. Love to hear your feedback. Shoot us a DM, whatever. I'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts on energy as you go forward this week.
Make it a great week, you guys.
Get after it.
Have a good one, dude. Thanks for the energy of this conversation, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Right on. That wraps it up for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of the Grit Meets Growth tribe. And thanks for growing along with us and being part of this journey together. If you know someone who needs to hear the conversation we had today, please share it. If you got something out of this conversation, please leave us a review. And finally, if you want to make sure you don't miss future episodes, just remember to subscribe. We're thankful for each and every one of you. And as my co-host and good friend Chris Cathers always says, make it a great day.